It feels like the end of the season crept up on us so quickly, and of course you know what that means. I'm going to be chatting through my seasonal most worn. Now today I will be running through my autumn most worn items, which I know is really helpful as many of you are living in the northern hemisphere. But if you happen to be in the southern hemisphere like me, my winter most worn is detailed over on my Substack. Actually, a good way to get a little look ahead if you're planning for the full season. Now I always love filming these because it gives a little bit more context to what I've been reaching for, but also it allows me to stop, reflect, and actually consider how the things I've added into my wardrobe have worn over time, whether they were successful purchases or whether they were things that I regret. And it's very rare that I'm surprised by the items that show up in my most worn, but this autumn I definitely wasn't expecting a few things to pop up. And part of that comes down to the fact that we always have a really short autumn season. It kind of comes and goes in the blink of an eye, and it also starts really late. So many of these things are a little bit more late summer leaning, so do keep that in mind. I will also pop the original Substack I shared 3 months ago along with links to everything I talk about today in the description box below. First thing I want to talk about is my most worn jacket, and I feel like this is kind of a crucial part of a transitional season wardrobe. It will be a core part of your outfits, not necessarily just your most worn in that category, but your most worn full stop outside of bags and shoes. And right now, I feel like we're seeing a lot of discourse about the windbreaker. These are great and obviously have a utilitarian aspect, but I don't really feel like you need to rush out and buy something new. The jacket I'm wearing is a style that was popularized a couple of years ago and one that I'm still really loving today. So it is this Whistles leather jacket. Now, it's called a bonded leather jacket, but actually it's just the seams that are bonded. It's 100% genuine leather. The leather they've used for this jacket is quite thick, and as a result, it has a lot of structure and really holds its shape despite wear. I haven't noticed a massive softening of the leather at all, actually, which I was kind of expecting to see maybe more than what has happened in reality. This is a combination of the zip-up closure and the snap, so I will say that I've never worn it done up. I've only ever worn it loose, and in part, I feel like it's because when I am wearing these sort of mid-length jackets, I want to define my waist so you can see where my legs begin, and that's a really good little trick if you want to create that visual illusion. What this jacket is telling me is that I'm leaning into the more casual parts of my style because I feel like an outerwear piece really sets the tone for the entire outfit. The rest of my look could be really polished and refined, but putting on something like this, which lacks that sense of formality, really helps to dial down the outfit. Oh, and I did go with my usual size for this one. It's quite a relaxed fit. I would say for petites, if you've been eyeing it up, do size down. Given how much money I spent on the Rose Ophelia knit, are we surprised that it was my most worn for autumn? I really wanted to try and start to get that cost per wear down because, I don't know, the price of this, it did make me feel a little bit ill, and I think it's actually only increased in price since I bought it, which is crazy. And I did go on a bit of a wild goose hunt to see if I could find an alternative that I liked just as much, if not more. I have the COS version, and I will say at that price point, I'm happy with it, but I'm also disappointed because it pills a lot, like a lot more than this has. Yes, this is pilled, but I have run my sweater rake over it, which I'll link the one I use down in the description box, and it looks really good. Like, yeah, it's got a little bit of a fuzz to it, but nothing major. It doesn't look untidy. And this to me is another item that is reflective of that shift towards more casual, relaxed outfits, which is very much in line with my current season of life. I feel like the issue for this for many people is the fact that it's a wool and cashmere blend, because in our minds we perceive that something that is cashmere is more luxurious, is more worth the money than a wool piece, because there is a sense of scarcity attached to it. And I would say that's probably even more so with something like Vicuna. But I don't think that sentiment actually reflects the experience of owning the sweater. The wool blended with the cashmere helps to give the sweater heft, and it's really thick. This is probably my warmest and heaviest sweater that I own, and I kind of liken it to my Celine cashmere knit in terms of that luxury experience. So for me, it is there, but I still think that 2.5 Australian or 1,500 US dollars is an extremely stupid amount of money to spend on a sweater, because at the end of the day, all of our clothing will wear out. I don't think there's really any need to pay those premium luxury price points unless you really want to and you have the budget to do so. I wear it in a size small, and it's a really kind of slouchy, oversized fit. It's usually what I'm wearing in place of a jacket or a coat. But yeah, I'm not surprised this one was in my most worn because of how much I actively strove to wear it. We'll talk about most worn denim next, and these two pairs of jeans are actually tied. I wore them the same amount of times. So first up we have these jeans from Redone. They're the high straight jean, I believe. I really, really love the wash. So it's not quite that raw rinse, but it has a real depth to the blue, and I find that these darker shades suit me a lot more than the lighter, bleached out, washed out shades. I feel like I need something that's heavily saturated or that's devoid of color at all. Redone denim is excellent. I think I bought my first pair of redone jeans back in 2015 possibly, and they went on to be one of my absolute favorites, and nothing's really changed. Again, they're a really nice sturdy 100% cotton denim, and they fit the body really nicely as well. I did get mine taken up a little bit because they were a touch on the long side, but what's interesting here is that you'll see both of the denim styles, they reflect that straight leg silhouette. And kind of getting out of the other side of winter, I'm seeing now that I actually want a slimmer jean. So I don't know, a bit of strange foreshadowing here because I'm sort of seeking out that variation now in my styling. But the other pair that ended up being my most worn were the Beck jeans from Sportscraft, which I think are a really good high quality denim that don't break the bank. These are 100% cotton, and I do have them in the silver as well. I had the white, but I just found they fit a lot more generously than the blue. But they're a great jean. I think that the length on this pair is really good too. I wore these in a what I wear in a week video, week in outfits video. I'll link that up in the cards if you want to get a better look at them and how I was wearing them in my day to day. But yeah, just another really good denim option. Sportscraft in general does fit a little bit more generously if you have been eyeing anything on their site. My most worn shoes are a bit of a funny one because I wasn't expecting it to be the 80 Eddie flats. I talked about these in a Substack, how they were one of my purchases of 2025 that I kind of regret, something I was a little bit disappointed in, and it's largely to do with the way that they have worn. And I feel like you can see here just how crumpled and creased they are across the toe. Now, this isn't something that normally would bother me, but it does kind of change the way that they shape and look on the foot. And I really love 80 shoes. It's one of my favorite shoe brands. I mean, the Judy pumps are up there as one of my all-time favorite pointed toe pumps that I've ever added into my wardrobe. And so for these to be a little bit of a dud, it kind of makes me feel a bit sad. I wish that I had bought the Judy pumps instead in the cherry red color. I think that would have been a better allocation of my budget. But on the flip side, it kind of just confirms to me just how good the leather on 80 shoes is. I'm someone who has wide feet and I get a lot of requests for wide feet friendly shoes. And yes, a video is coming really soon. I'm sorry, it's certainly in the works. But 80 shoes in general, the leather they use, it softens up so much, it gives so beautifully that it really is appropriate and suitable for those who do have wide feet or bunions, any kind of issues like that, though they don't have any interior arch support. So that might be something that you have to add in separately. But the other thing it highlighted is just how wonderful having a non-black neutral shoe is to reach for on a daily basis, and something that's just easy to slip your feet into. So I love burgundy, and that kind of burgundy chocolate raisin color as well, something with a bit of a plummy undertone to it. I find that it is an exceptionally versatile neutral, unexpected, and it just kind of softens up that contrast in an outfit. So yes, Betty flats, I did size up to a 40.5 in these, though I do wear the 40 in the Delia pumps, which are another favorite. Those are brilliant, but they have more of a rounded toe. We'll do my most worn top next, which was a little fitted ribbed tee. This one is from Henny, which is an Australian brand. And the detail I loved about this is that it has this ruching on the side, so it creates this gathered effect across the waist, which I find to be really flattering, especially with a baby tee like this. Yes, it's more of a premium price point, and I will say, I did not think that this would wash well, and it has actually laundered incredibly well. I put it in the washing machine, there's not a single pull on it, though the fabric does feel quite kind of delicate, and it's very lightweight, has a really nice soft rib texture to it, which is really only noticeable when you're up close. Overall, I really love this, though I think what it told me more so was that I wanted a slim fitting black tee in my wardrobe, and any slim fitting black tee would have worked. It could be the Uniqlo slim fit tees, which are under $30, a great price point, or even the Nude Lucy one that I got, which is a plain black organic cotton. That would be a great swap for this too. Now, my most worn trousers of the season. So here we are, we're talking more about how I'm leaning on those really casual tropes in my wardrobe. I love elasticized waistbands, and this features that. And these are such a nice pant. They're from Deji Studios. They're called their Ease pants. And I will say the white ones are sheer, so I would stick to the darker colors. What I like about these is they're cotton poplin, easy to launder and care for. They're actually really easy to kind of steam out or iron as well. I don't really feel like they hold a crease too much, but they have pockets. And also the thing that kind of elevates these and makes them feel more refined is the very, very thin waistband. And I find that this kind of makes them feel a little bit more polished than something with a really thick waistband would. And it's a nice differentiator, very subtle difference, but one that I think really matters. And truth be told, I don't have a whole lot more to say about these other than I really love an elasticated waistband. I had a very similar pair from Dish kind of pop in as my second most worn, which I'll put a photo on the screen of those ones in case you're curious, and that just reinforces that shift towards more relaxed casual dressing. Then I will talk about my most worn bag before I do my last apparel item. Now, I have a tendency to hyperfixate on bags that I've kind of just brought into my wardrobe. Doesn't mean I'm not going to alternate with my other ones, but I end up being so excited that it's all I want to wear. And that was definitely the case with the Dragon Diffusion Santa Croce bag, which I had been wanting to get some sort of textured raffia woven bag. I'd bought the Loewe one, which was such an expensive mistake for me because I never wore it. I wanted something that had long straps that I could fit over my shoulder, that didn't feel too kind of heritage, traditional, kind of coastal grandmother. And this to me did all of those things. And it just added so much texture into my summer outfits and felt like the real answer to summer bag styling for me, outside of those lighter colors and leather. So I really love the shape, very decent size. It fits 2 children's water bottles for anyone using that as their measure for whether or not a bag is something they should consider or not. And I could also fit nappies and wipes in here too, so really generously sized. It fits, yeah, as I mentioned, so nicely over the shoulder, and the leather is really nice and glossy. It's kind of softened up a little bit. And I will say, actually, I think I might have gotten one that had a little bit of a defect, as I'll try and do a close-up, but some of the leather, it kind of looks like it's been rubbed off, the paint on the leather, or even just the tanning. So I think that possibly it might have arrived that way, as I can't understand how it's taken on that appearance. It almost looks a little bit milky. It's the best way to describe it. But I was so excited when it arrived to wear it straight away that I didn't really inspect it as closely as I would have otherwise. And that's definitely a mistake. I think I should have taken a closer look so that I could have exchanged it for one that was perfect. But given how much I wore it, I know eventually it's going to get really worn in and really kind of battered. And I think if we don't love the way something looks when it is lived in, we shouldn't add it into our wardrobes because it's not going to look fresh out of the box forever. These bags are quite expensive, and maybe it's just me, but I feel like they've done a price increase recently. I managed to get mine when it was 15% off, so that definitely made it feel like a little bit of a softer blow to the bank account, but you can buy really similar looking bags off of Etsy, or there are so many brands that are now doing this kind of a vibe, but for kind of around that 200 Australian dollar price point. So I will be sure to link some other alternatives down below. The one thing I want to mention about this bag though, which I wish I had even considered, is that it can cause color transfer. I had this sitting next to my mini Masubi bag, which I have in a beautiful camel color, and I went to get that bag out of my cabinet and I noticed that there were black marks on the bottom because some of the color from this had transferred onto it. I made 0 attempts to try and remove that, but if you have any tips or advice, please drop it down in the comments, because that bag actually is just one of my all-time favorites. Thankfully it's on the back side of the bag, but it's still kind of an annoyance. Anyway, I'm very happy with it. It's funny that a woven bag like this, which I would associate more with the warmer months, ended up being one of my most worn for autumn, but it's really because of the season and the fact that it was kind of 20 degrees all the way up until maybe May. Which kind of brings me on to my last item and my most worn, which again is a very summery piece, this little linen mini dress from Faithful. And really, I kind of just want to shout out what a beautiful brand Faithful the label is. The linen on this dress is so stunning. It's lined as well, and the lining feels really lovely and silky against the skin, but the actual linen, it washes impeccably and it actually comes out feeling softer, like even just from the first few washes. This particular mini dress has a little tie at the back, so you can cinch it in and really get that lovely waist definition. So I find the silhouette to be really flattering, and I think this is a great example of how I like to bring that figure flattering element into my wardrobe. So not really svelte and tight the whole way down, but cinched in at the waist to kind of enhance my proportions rather than working against them. And the nice thing about this is it was a really easy kind of throw on and go piece, and it looks great when it's styled with those more slouchy elements too, because it is quite a pretty elegant dress, particularly when you do cinch it in at the waist. Oh, and I did take this one in my usual size, so I do find sometimes their tops run a little bit on the larger side. So those were my most worn items for autumn. I hope that you enjoyed this little run through, a bit of a mini review on some of the pieces that really got a lot lot of wear time over that 3-month period and also beyond. If you are curious to see what I wore the most in winter, then make sure you go and check out the description box below. I hope that the styling element just gave you a little bit of inspiration for the season ahead too. I hope you have the most amazing week ahead. If you're new here and you love wardrobe analysis, you like brand reviews, you want to make the most out of your wardrobes, then please do make sure that you subscribe if you aren't already. And I'll see you next time with a brand new video. See you soon. Bye.